I had a crystal
For over 15 years, Jeff Summerhayes has been an avid outdoorsman. He spends his time walking his dog Cougar, biking to the local restaurant for breakfast, and most often kayaking near the town of Paris, Ontario. Being so active has been an important factor in Jeff's life. It's given him an appreciation for nature as well as his community. Most importantly, it has helped keep him healthy.
So, here I am at the end of the Ottawa River. It's been a really good week.
This summer is the first in 2 years that Jeff's been well enough to get out and paddle.
15 years ago this week, I started paddling whitewater. I paddled 3 out of 5 days, which was really good for me after 2 years off. Gave me my confidence back. Brought back the love of the sport. The excitement.
He seemed to always choose challenging things to either work at or play at. But in terms of play, and part of that play is exercise, which contributes to his well-being. He likes to be on the river in his kayak. He's challenged by the rapids.
Although being active is good for anybody, it's key in Jeff's daily routine. Without it, he could find his health quickly spiraling downward. He is afflicted with the most common fatal genetic disease in Canada, cystic fibrosis. He must get regular exercise to keep his body in good enough shape to help fight the symptoms of CF.
Well, exercise is important because you do so much coughing in order to try and get the stuff moving up. It's important to keep the muscles that are behind that coughing strong and fit.
When patients with cystic fibrosis or people with cystic fibrosis years ago were given that diagnosis, the average lifespan was about 3 to 4 years.
The biggest thing I can remember is when I was about 12, that's, I guess, when the doctors really put it to me that, you know, at the time, that chances were really good that I wouldn't live much beyond 20.
The day can be busy between taking inhalation medications, doing their airway clearance techniques.
The disease causes mucus plugging, mucus retention, spasming of their airways, and congestion. So the concept is that they're constantly sort of plugged up with this mucus, and so the issue is how do you get the ketchup out of the ketchup bottle?
The problem with postural drainage and percussion is that it had a lot of the segments that were treated in the back, for example, were very difficult to do by yourself.
The problem now becomes is when you're an adult and you're living on your own, and if you don't have a significant other or family member that can actually provide that sort of physiotherapy.
Hello, my name is Louis Plante. I have cystic fibrosis. I'm 33 years old. As an early child, I was prone to clapping as everybody else, I guess. Until I wanted my own independence. You know, it's a pretty, well, it's kind of violent in the clapping. I had the bone here fracture quite a bit often.
The frequencer is a new device, and that uses mechanical and acoustical sound waves and the theory is that it'll cause vibrations in the airways, which will help to move the mucus up the airways.
Well, this device was invented 7 years ago by a young CF patient named Louis Plante.
The frequencer was a miracle for Jeff, too. He was given a 2-month trial run with the device last year and wishes he never had to give it back.
I was biking and not having trouble biking anymore, and I was like, well, this is the best thing since sliced bread.
The problem with the vest or with the frequencer is that although they're effective forms of physiotherapy, and certainly one person can do this for themselves, they're expensive.
Frequencer actually in Canada costs $12,000.
So there's no funding through insurance companies, or very limited funding. There might be a couple of patients that have found funding, but it's not standard. And again, it's not covered by any other assistive devices program or anything like that currently. So if families find that this would be a good treatment for the patient, effective, and that they'd adhere to, it leaves the family to find the money on their own at this time.
Well, the ADP, or the Assisted Devices Program, is through the Ministry of Health, a program that helps and assists with purchasing and providing up to, I think it's around 8,000 different devices now that the ministry provides some funding for, if not 100%. A declining amount from there on in. And its purpose is to have a body of experts who evaluate all of these different types of devices and makes them on a list that allows the program to pay for these devices that people with disabilities need.
For more than a year and a half, many people have written to the Assistive Devices Program and the Ministry of Health in an effort to persuade them to help cover at least some of the costs of the Frequencer and VEST devices. Despite the positive experiences many people are having with these new devices, extensive clinical studies must first be performed to determine effectiveness and safety of the treatments before any government funding is made available.
The problem is, of course, doing a study that's going to be statistically significant involves using a lot of patients, and doing a proper randomized control study.
Many recent estimates suggest the study could take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to complete. This presents a significant problem for those who need the devices now.
If it's their preference, the issue is who gets to pay for this? The patient, the Assisted Device Program on behalf of the Ontario taxpayer, Canadian government, Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, other charitable organizations. That's the question. That really is the dilemma that comes into it.
So I'll have generally 2 to 3 mucous masks a day. So to give you an idea, this would be 2 weeks supply, and a bottle of Ventolin and a couple of normal saline would be my inhalation therapy that I need. So adding to those, I need this much more Ventolin, this much more normal saline, another mucomist, this much tobramycin. So there's 2 different types of oral antibiotics. And then I do an Advair, so I have to take calcium, I have to take extra vitamin D3, I have to take ADEC capsules. Of course, there's my codazyme that I have to take with each meal. But to stop the acid reflux, I'm on Losec.
Although devices such as the Frequencer and the VEST wouldn't eliminate all the medication costs for people like Jeff and Louie, they would reduce the amount of medication they would have to take on a daily basis.